Have you considered beekeeping? Is it for you? Why don't you join me today as we go out to the apiary and check on the beehives? We're also going to put some supers on, and I'm going to show you how I set mine up. Also on top of that, we're going to go into our bait boxes that we put out this past spring with the attempt to capture some swarms, and we'll see if we captured any. So again, come on along. Welcome back to Newtown Orchard and Nursery. Today we're going to get into the beehives to see how they're doing. We've had a record-breaking amount of rain these last couple of months, which has left the ground so saturated. It's kept the bees in their hives a lot, but it's also produced a lot of nectar. The buzz I hear among the beekeepers is that it's producing so much nectar that the hives are getting packed with honey, and the bees are running out of room for the queen to lay eggs. So we're going to get into them and check on them. And at the same time, we're going to get into our bait boxes. We're going to see how they did. It's the end of our swarm season for the most part, so I'm going to go ahead and pull them. She always wants to be in the movies. Upcoming movie star. I also bought 2 new nukes this year. I wanted some new genetics in my apiary, so I picked up. They ran me $200 per nuke, and I know bees are getting expensive. I do want to talk about that. Most people I meet that get into beekeeping do it more for the romance. I will tell you, the romance goes away fairly quickly depending on how you beekeep. A couple of things you need to be aware of. Number one, there is a cost involved. The equipment alone is probably going to run you a couple $100s. And when you beekeep, you should start with at least 2 hives. Really, that's all you should. If you're just starting, start with just 2 hives. That way, if one's doing great and one's not doing so great, you have something to compare them to. The other thing, though, with the bee themselves, the bees, when you buy packages or nukes, can run $200 per hive. So you're looking at a $400 expense, not counting your jacket, not counting your smokers and all those. So you're looking at probably about a $400 expense to invest in each hive. The other thing is, new beekeepers particularly, and it happens to us old veteran beekeepers, we lose bees. And you can't get discouraged, because in my beekeeping in the beginning, it took me probably 3 years before I stopped losing so many beehives. And then this year, I decided to buy some new hives or some nukes to get some new genetics into my area. Because constantly splitting the same hives over and over again, you don't have a variety bee characteristics. You need some new genetics out there. So I wanted to share that with you. Truth of the matter is, if you enjoy the beekeeping, it's worth sticking with it. So again, don't give it up. That being said, let's move on to my bees. Again, I've got 3 bait boxes that I've surrounded my apiary with in case they swarmed, that I could recapture them, or I could capture a new swarm. We did that on a previous video, and we can put the link below which video that is, setting up the bait box. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into each one of my hives. 2 of them are new. They were purchased as nukes this year, so they're new. They are already in 2 deep boxes. We're going to see if it's time to put on a super where they're going to continue filling in the honey. And I'm going to show you how I make my supers, how I assemble my supers. The next thing is I've got one that already has a super on it. That one's a carryover from over the years. And so we're going to check out and see how well it's doing, and maybe it needs another super as well. So in my way of beekeeping, I do the Langstroth form, the boxes. I have 2 deeps with deep frames. That is for the bees. That's the hive. That remains for them. I don't go in there and take anything out of that as far as honey goes. Every box I put on top of that is a medium. And I've explained this earlier in a previous video as well. I'll put that link below. So I've got a medium here that I'm going to use as a super. Now I've got a bunch of frames. I've got a bunch of frames already drawn out that it was a carryover from last year. Okay, and if you notice down in these corners, there's a hole and there's a hole. The bees deliberately do that so they can quickly travel from one side of the frame to the next. Pretty smart of them. So I'm going to put in here I'm going to put 2 drawn combs. They can start cleaning, or clean them, and then they'll start putting, laying eggs, or hopefully for these it won't be eggs. These will be putting honey in immediately. The next thing I'm going to do is I have one with just foundation. Okay? It's got a little bit of drawn comb on it, as you can see. I'm going to put that in next. Next to that one, I'm going to put another drawn comb. Next to that one, I have one left over from last year that the center's been removed. Okay? They will fill that in as they clean this up. Pull that leaf out of there. But they will clean that up and they will fill that in. So I'll put that right in the middle. Then I'm going to do another drawn comb. I'm going to put that next to that one. All right, this is an 8-frame box. I'm only going to put 7 frames in here. So we've got a drawn comb. We've got a foundation with drawn comb. We've got one that needs some repair from the bees. We've got drawn comb. Now we've got one that was drawn, but it was filled in all the way. Okay? I'm going to put that in there out of curiosity. Will they finish filling that out? And I'm going to put a mark on it, knowing which one it is. So if they fill it out and you can't tell the difference between it and the others, that doesn't help me. So we'll put a marker on that saying partially drawn. All right, 7 frames. We spaced them out a little bit different. If you had an 8-frame, they would be pushed against each other. Now, the benefit of putting 7 frames in your supers in an 8-frame box, or if you have a 10-frame box, putting 9 frames in there, is you can put a little more space in between each one of these frames. The bees are only going to draw out the comb to the point where they can still move up and down between those frames. But they're going to fill it all the way up to that point and fill it with honey. So the more space between the frames, the more honey per frame. And believe it or not, the tests show that there's a substantial more honey produced in a box like this than if I had that full 8 frames in here. So remove a frame, let them draw that comb out even more, and fill that with honey. You'll get more honey per super. Okay, so that's how I'm going to be doing my supers. So here's a trick I think I've shown you before. I've removed all the comb in this frame except for this 1/2 inch to 1 inch along the top. The bees will build on that and fill this entire frame up without a foundation. This one has pieces of foundation in them that I'm going to leave at the top. That'll stimulate them to fill those out and draw that down and fill this frame in. Generally, they don't go out in other directions. They'll draw straight down. The important part, though, is frames like this, like the frame with the little bit of comb left at the top, need to be between a couple of filled or drawn out comb. That gives the bees more guideline to draw straight down. Next, come with me. We're going to go check on the bait boxes, and we're going to go ahead and pull them off. It looks like this one is full of ants and not bees. Yeah, this one's turned into an ant bed. All the moisture's drawn them up. Oh well, we'll clean it up. This one's up on the porch of the apartment over the garage. And oh, no activity, but no ants either. All right, this one, no activity. No ants, no bees, but last year the one I had up there was filled with European hornets. I don't have those this year either. That's a good thing. So this is my last bait box that I pulled from out of the tree on our pasture, and again, no bees, no ants. So 3 empty bait boxes. It's time to pull them in. Okay, we're going to take a look at this hive. We're going to go ahead and smoke it. I don't see much, but we'll smoke it. Okay, it is glued down. All right. Better. Oh, we have... Oh, shoot. Well, that's not supposed to happen. They're not supposed to fall apart. That makes your bees very unhappy. Oh, but there's bees in here. And I did not anticipate that. No, I did not. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of bees, kind of almost a 5th row of bees. Well, 4 rows. We'll keep it at that. Let's see if I can get these girls picked up. Here, let's do this. Picking up the bees off the ground, especially with a queen. If you can grab yourself a frame that doesn't have, I have a few bees, but not many. Let's see if we can get them to come right on there. Yeah, let them crawl right up onto the frame, onto the comb. Make it a little bit easier for them. There's a few left on the ground. I'm not going to get them all, but a lot of them are up on the frame now. Okay, all right. A gentle way of picking the bees off the ground. Put that back in there. So, I have active bees. We're going to leave that alone. I do have a lid that's disintegrating, so that's not good. But we're going to leave that. And I'll have to come back, do something with the lid. And in the meantime, put the bricks on here. And it's not a big cluster in there, but again, it was this was one of my nukes that I just bought. And I'll tell you the story. So this was one of the nukes I had just bought, and $200. A few days after they were in here, they were active on the front, just like the rest of the bees. They were active and on the front. So nothing looked out of the ordinary. They didn't look like they were getting into swarming. They were just busy. And that's why you want at least 2 hives, really, so you could do a comparison. But then about a week went by, and oh, by the way, I had put a another box on top of it because they had all drawn comb. Most of it came from the nuke, These are 8 frame boxes again. So I had added 3 more frames. Nuke had 5 frames. I had 3 more drawn comb frames. So they had that. 3 days later, they're already on them all and working them. So I gave them another deep box. And anyways, and then I let it go. About a week later, my neighbor on one direction was telling me how he saw a swarm of bees coming out of my pasture and across his pasture. That concerned me. So I came back over here and I looked and I noticed that this hive wasn't as active as it used to be. What I did at that point is I went ahead and I opened them up and I found that we had a small cluster in there. Well, again, we just started with a nuke, and if they had swarmed, which it looked like they did, they left behind a small number of bees. I say a small number, it looks like it's a small hive, so it may be large enough to rebound. We don't know. I don't know. So we'll have to see. So I closed it up, took the top box off because now it's too big, sealed it back up, and then at the last bee meeting, I found out that another neighbor who does bees had his bait box up near my other neighbor's pasture, and that he caught that swarm. It is now his. So if my $200 on this hive is now a gift to him. As a beekeeper, those things happen. Yes, you're going to feel the pain. And yes, that's an expense that I can't afford to go out and do that again. So, you know, it's frustrating, but there's nothing you can do about it. It's like, you know, when you have cattle, you buy cattle, the cattle's healthy, you bring them home, but then all of a sudden, for some reason, a cow or two of yours die. That's frustrating. You spent a bit of money on that, but you can't blame the guy you got the cattle from. If it was in good health or if he maintained them well, it's not his fault anymore. When you're dealing with the biologicals like this, things happen and you don't have control. That being said, beekeepers really feel for newbie beekeepers, because when you put an expense in, the chances are you're probably going to lose a hive or two. Maybe all your hives for the next year or so, and you got to stick with it. There's not a lot anybody can do about it. It's just heartbreaking. We all go through it. We understand. We truly do understand. Don't give up. I guess that's the biggest thing, is don't give up. Once you invested in the initial equipment, there are ways of keeping the cost down and getting those bees back in there. So anyways, that's all I wanted to tell you about that. Now let's go ahead and look at the other hives while we're out here. Got to tell you what, many a times beekeepers have left their hive tools somewhere and couldn't find it, be it in the grass, be it on top of another hive, or wherever. They laid it down and they lost it. I have 3 or 4 of these just for that purpose alone. I'm always misplacing them. All right, here we go, popping them open. They got bees on top, but not a lot. Yeah. And you can tell that there's not a lot of bees here. I'm going to pop down one more layer. All right, they're still working on this one. This has got drawn comb and honey. Let's see what I've got. Plenty of foundation that's not been drawn yet. So yeah, not drawn yet. Okay, they're drawing that one, so they're working on it. Let's put you aside. So you can see those combs are drawn out. And if you can look at that white, that's the capping on the honey. So this side is done. This side, yeah, I'm going to do that. But this side, not so done. So, and this is their top box. What I'm going to do is take some of those drawn frames from the bait boxes that I did. I'm going to replace these with those so they don't have so much work to do here. So, yeah, okay, so you go in. I'm going to give them this foundation. Drop a couple of and those have been drawn out. So that'll speed them along on there. I'll go ahead and give them, put the super back on so they can get started on that upper box as well. All right, now a lid. And the strap. Okay, and that is done. Now we're going to move on to the next one. And this was my split I did this year that came from this box here. So if this was A, this is A, or this is now B, this is still A, because this is where the queen was moved into this box. Anyways, so let's smoke away. A lot of buzzing going on in this one. That's good. So one of the things to consider is the box that we just did was a split, which means they had to requeen themselves. And that's very likely why that top box wasn't moved into yet. There's a break in the brood cycle when that happens. All right. Not a lot of activity up here, but a little more than the last one. Do a quick puffing here. And then we'll draw up some frames and see what the activity is. They generally go for the ones in the middle first and then work their way outward. So again, this is drawn comb. The bottom is packed. I'm going to put this aside and see if I can get you a picture of the bottom. This one, not drawn out yet. Remember the ones that I'm going to put in the super that are kind of like that? So I've not filled that out yet. But let's move a couple frames and let you look at what's going on down below. So again, they're working on these frames. So if you can see, there's a lot of bees down there. So I'm not worried about this hive. They're packed. That queen's been working pretty diligently. All right, we're going to put everything back. I'm not going to mess with it. I am going to put a super on here. I'm going to replace that one partially drawn frame with a fully drawn frame. This one. Put that one in. And we'll replace it with this one. Okay. So now they have all drawn comb, and they're working up here. Spacing these out a little bit. There's 8 frames in here, but I'm still trying to space them out a wee bit. Okay, and we'll put a super on there. That also gives the queen a lot more room for laying her eggs. Okay, we'll put the lid on. All right, and we had bricks on it. I'm going to keep putting bricks on it. Why bricks? Why straps? I don't know. Straps are really more for critter protection, high winds, but I've never had one of my hives blown over in a high wind. I have had where my hives were in a pasture near with cattle. It was at a friend's place, and he was supposed to move the cattle out of that pasture and not return them there, but he did. and they come over and they rub up against your hives, and they'll knock it all to pieces. So, okay, that one's done. Let's move to the last one. Can you see me? I think you can. Still smoking, so we're gonna pump some smoke in there. This is another purchase from this year. These are corneolas. Corneolas, am I pronouncing that right? I hope so. And they take a little longer to wake up, but once they wake up, they usually just are gangbusters in the form of production. So it looks like I did not lose these. Oh wow, look at this. Are they ever gangbusters? They're all the way up at the top. They are all the way up here on the top. And just about every row is filled with bees. So this is definitely ready for a super. I'm gonna put 2 supers on this one. I've got them. Might as well use them. So we'll put that super on there. We will seal them up and let them have at it. And back to the strap. Okay. They're all stacked up. So, yes, I do expect to get honey out of this hive this year. I expect to get honey out of the next 2 hives as well this year. They're doing well. That last one that I bought, truth of the matter is I don't expect it to survive. That's it. So that was our experience in the hives today. Got nothing in the bait box. We lost a hive, or what looks like lost a hive, a $200 expense. And we've got supers put on the other ones. They're slow at getting started, but keep in mind we've had record rainfalls, and that's been keeping them indoors a lot. So let's see what happens. We'll check back with them in probably about a month to see what their progress is. So until then, we'll see you on the next video.